there, that will be revealed to us when we get there. For now, our business is not thinking about what is my siddhadeya, what is my liberated form in the spiritual sky. Now my business is cleansing my heart of lust and anger and greed and jealousy and corruptness. Those are the things that are the obstacles to my becoming liberated and becoming a pure devotee of God. So our business right now is cleansing the heart of all the contamination that we have got by associating with this material energy for a long time. And that is gained also by chanting this mantra. Thank you. Another question?
Maharaj, Hare Krishna. I just wanted to ask, as a layman, how do I resolve if moon landing was actually done or has it been faked?
If what?
As a layman, how do I understand whether the moon landing has actually taken place, whether the United States have landed on the moon? I mean, you come from the same country, you're probably aware of.
There's different conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Well, from the material point of view, there's many discrepancies in the moon landing, which one can read about on the internet. You know, the facts that, well, I don't need to go into them to detail with you. There's many discrepancies that have been pointed out by other scientists than the scientists who sent or astronauts who went to the moon. But from our Vedic point of view, which we accept because we accept with full faith, the knowledge which is given to us by the Lord through the Guru Parampara, the succession of spiritual masters, we accept it as perfect because the source is perfect. Either we put our faith in mundane personalities who, with all due respect, have imperfect senses, make mistakes, sometimes come under illusion, present themselves falsely as authorities, changing their theories constantly. I would rather put my faith in a sadhu who has full control over his mind and senses, who's never participated in sinful activity which can contaminate the consciousness, who lives a pure life and repeats the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have to put your faith in someone, because you don't have the time to go to the moon and figure it out. So you accept a scientist or you accept sadhu. I've associated with scientists and I've associated with sadhus, and I love the sadhus. That's why I spend so much time in your country. There's always a temple to visit, a cow to pet, a holy river to bathe in, a sadhu to visit. So from Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, we learn that the moon planet is part of Svargalok. According to our eyes, maybe it doesn't appear like that, but again, our eyes are deficient. I can only see what is happening in this room. I can't see beyond this room. So what power do my eyes have to understand things as they are? So Vedic scriptures describe the moon as a heavenly planet. And it can only be achieved by those who engage in pious activities, or yogis. Yogis who, by dint of their penances and austerities, purify themselves and awaken their higher spiritual nature. They can travel to distant planets, and sometimes they do. That is the business of yogis. They have mystic powers. They go to the moon, they go to see Surya Bhagavan and the sun planet, they go to other planets. I don't think they'll go to malefic planets like Mars, but this is our higher education. And perhaps sometime in the distant future, when Krishna consciousness is prevalent throughout the world and these things have been researched, the scientists will come to the same conclusion. But we accept that they didn't go there, because to go there, you have to be very pious. That is our conclusion.
India cannot have his soldiers become sannyasi like you. We have two friendly...
Priya, a little slower.
Sorry. India cannot have his soldiers become sannyasi like you. We have two friendly neighbors like China and Pakistan. How is this Hare Krishna chant going to help us?
We do need soldiers. But soldiers are doing their duty to uphold Dharma. Krishna never said to Arjuna, become a yogi, become a sannyasi and go to the forest. Actually, when Arjuna was first seeing the situation on the battlefield, he was getting into distress. He wanted to leave the battlefield and become a yogi. But Krishna said, no, you're a Kshatriya. Kshatriya in Sanskrit means to protect from hurt. There's a class of men who are meant to protect the innocent members of society who may not be so physically strong from the aggressors. Our spiritual master said the innocent members are children, the cows, ladies, old men, and Brahmins. They're always meant to be protected. So if you're big and strong and big muscles and you're good at administration and strategic warfare and you're brave and you're bold and you're ready to give up your life on the battlefield protecting Dharma, fine. So India requires soldiers to uphold Dharma, to protect a country which is God conscious. We should also work on making the country God conscious again. I know that India is the second largest exporter of beef in the world. Cry, my beloved country. Well, the cow is sacred. What is Krishna's favorite animal? The cow. He goes to the forest every day with hundreds of thousands of cows. From the cow we get milk, which is a miracle food, because by drinking hot milk, the finer tissues in the brain are nourished, so one can understand the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Just to look at the cow makes one's mind peaceful. And to have the country exporting beef to other parts of the world, this is adharma. And adharmic activities will bring their due results. So if the Kshatriyas are to protect our country should be full of politicians, I better be careful here, who are Rajrishis. Rajrishi means a saintly person sitting on the throne like Yudhishthir, or Ram, or Dasharath, who ruled according to religious principles, didn't allow sinful activity to go on in their country, and encouraged people in their spiritual practices and their spiritual beliefs. Didn't say which religion you had to follow. No. You choose the religion which you feel comfortable with. You can be Hindu, you can be Muslim, Parsi, you can be Sikh. We're not saying that. But follow the principles of religion. And then you have the right to be defended by Kshatriyas to protect you. And they may have to fight and die on the battlefield. That is glorious for a Kshatriya, to die on the battlefield protecting. So it's the duty of the Kshatriyas to rule and protect. It's the duty of the Brahmins to preach transcendental knowledge, to preach Bhagavad Gita. There should be more teachings of Bhagavad Gita. The Vaishyas are there to protect the cows, do business, support spiritual culture, and the Sudras are there to give a helping hand in constructing Krishna-conscious cities and temples and mosques and churches where people can practice their faiths. So yes, they don't have to follow my example and run away from the battlefield, Ranchor. Of course, I did it because my country was not fighting a religious war. It was all for profit, ultimately, and money, and I saw through it all. So I gave up my gun for a danda. And I gave up killing the enemy to save souls by sharing this wisdom of Bhagavad Gita and encouraging people to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
My dear Maharaj, I have a question. How does a devotee understand the position of Srila Prabhupada and the position of his personal spiritual master in his life?
Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He is the head of this institution. And as the Acharya, he set down the practices for this movement that is destined to go on for many thousands of years, actually. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Vedic scholars, devotional scholars have said this movement will go on for 10,000 years. So there has to be an institution by which people can join and practice Vedic culture according to time, place, and circumstance. This is the art of presenting an ancient spiritual culture in the modern world. Sometimes you have to make some concessions, at the same time not diminishing the potency of that spiritual movement and that spiritual message. For example, my spiritual master came from a movement called the Gaudiya Math, where, like practically all the temples in India, the Math was run by a mahant, and there were the brahmacharis living in there, and the priests worshipping the deity. Ladies would come for the ceremonies and help perhaps with the garland making and the chanting and so forth, but they didn't live in the ashram. But when my spiritual master came to the West, as the acharya, he had to make a little bit of a change because the movement would not spread. He saw that boys and girls in America were more accustomed to mingling more freely together. Not that it's necessarily a good thing, but you're not going to change the face of America by, saying boys and girls cannot be together in spiritual practices. So Prabhupada let the girls live in the temple. We would acquire big buildings, and one section of the building was for brahmacharinis. In Vedic culture, celibate boys are called brahmacharis, and Prabhupada coined a new phrase. Unmarried girls are called brahmacharinis. From brahmachari, we got brahmacharinis. And they lived together, separated, but at the same time living in the same house or home or temple, practicing together. And in Vedic culture, you didn't see in the past ladies going out and preaching the divine command. It was always the sannyasis and brahmacharis. But in America, these young girls, they became very fixed up in Krishna consciousness by following the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling, and chanting on their mala 16 rounds, 2 or 3 hours a day, the Maha Mantra, studying Bhagavad Gita, so forth and so on. Prabhupada asked the girls to go on the street and preach the message of Bhagavad Gita. That was very effective, because all the men would stop and listen, and they'd buy the books from them, not me. They wouldn't stop for me, but they'd listen to the young lady. She was very shy and very chaste, her head covered. And out of respect, the men would buy the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada made some concessions in this way, as the acharya. The acharya means the one who has to see the world at the present time and circumstance, and how to adjust this ancient Vedic culture so that it can flourish in a modern day environment without compromising the purity and the message of that movement. That is done by an acharya, by a purely self-realized soul. Not an aspiring devotee, but a self-realized soul. And after the disappearance of the acharya, some of his senior devotees can continue spreading the same message as he adapted it according to time, place, and circumstance. Some of the disciples themselves become the spiritual masters after the departure of their spiritual master. And after their departure, their disciples become spiritual masters. And after theirs, so evam parampara praptam imam rasasyo vidu. This knowledge of Krishna consciousness what is the verse number? Evam parampara 4:1. Nope. 2. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasayo vidu sa kalehana mahata yoganashta parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. And the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. But the first two lines are significant, that this knowledge is coming down from the Lord himself through the parampara, the disciplic succession of spiritual masters, acharyas, who may adopt according to time, place, and circumstance, and then their disciples preach that same message as time goes on. And if it's necessary to be adjusted again, by the will of the Lord, another Acharya will appear.
Since we're short of time, so we will email the answers to the rest of the questions.
Okay. How would you like that we finish with the kirtan? We've been speaking so much about the alternative. We've lambasted the material nature, materialistic way of life, the material world. So what is the alternative? The joyful, blissful life of Krishna consciousness, which is condensed in the form of this mantra. So we'll bring the harmonium and the mridangas forward. And if you could be so kind as the audience to repeat after me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In Bangalore and in Madras and in Cochin, they chanted louder. And I've heard so many good things about Manipal. So I expect a bigger, more enthusiastic response. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That's better than Madras. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Better than Cochin. Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Now, you look at the person sitting next to you and see if they're smiling. You see how it works? Before we chat, I'd like to mention that we have this book, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, which means it's a special presentation by our spiritual master for the people of this age, full of purports to every the 700 verses with very beautiful paintings. They're available at the book table. After the program, I'm going to stand at the book table, and anyone who purchases a Bhagavad Gita, I'll be very happy to write a dedication in the book with the date, some blessing, as you say, with the name, to give you a little reminder of this great cultural event, this significant event where we've had this Krishna Katha and Kirtan in this beautiful city of Manipal. You can remember that, and from time to time, when you feel the need, you can take the book out, read the dedication, and read the book and be